Kyle Busch's death certificate has now added a new layer to the timeline surrounding his final days. The document, obtained by entertainment and sports outlets, says the NASCAR champion had been dealing with bacterial pneumonia for days to weeks before the medical emergency that led to his death at 41. That detail matters because the public timeline had already included signs that Busch was not feeling well before his final hospitalization. But the certificate now gives a clearer picture of how quickly the illness escalated. The latest confirmed update is not about rumor or speculation. It comes after Busch's family had already said a medical evaluation found that severe pneumonia progressed into sepsis, leading to rapid and overwhelming complications. Now, the death certificate adds more specific language, describing pneumonia that developed into sepsis, then into disseminated intravascular coagulation, and finally, hemorrhagic shock. Medical sources describe sepsis as the body's extreme response to infection, and DIC as a serious clotting disorder that can block blood flow to major organs. To understand why this update is being revisited, the timeline has to start before the emergency call. On May 10, during a race at Watkins Glen, Busch was heard asking his team to have a doctor ready after the race. The broadcast described him as dealing with a sinus cold, made worse by the physical demands of the road course. At the time, it was not publicly known that the illness would later become part of a larger and much more serious medical timeline. For verified entertainment and sports updates without the rumors, subscribe to Startline Entertainment. After Watkins Glen, Busch continued racing. AP reported that he competed at Dover the next weekend, won the Truck Series race, and then finished 17th in the NASCAR All-Star race. That All-Star appearance became his final race. What remains difficult about the timeline is that publicly, he was still competing at an elite level, while also showing signs of illness that, in hindsight, now appear more serious. The most urgent turn came on May 20. According to AP reporting on the 911 call, Busch was testing in a Chevrolet racing simulator in Concord, North Carolina, when he became unresponsive and was later taken to a hospital in Charlotte. The emergency call described shortness of breath, overheating, and coughing up blood. The caller also said Busch was awake and lying on the bathroom floor. Those details are difficult, but they are important because they show how quickly the public story moved from an expected race weekend to a medical emergency. One day later, on May 21, the Busch family, Richard Childress Racing, and NASCAR announced that Kyle Busch had died. He was 41. The first joint statement said he had been hospitalized after a severe illness, but did not give a cause of death. That restraint mattered. It meant that early coverage could confirm the loss, his hospitalization, and the reaction from the NASCAR world, but not the full medical sequence. 2 days after his death, the family released more information. According to the statement reported by NASCAR and AP, the medical evaluation provided to the Busch family concluded that severe pneumonia progressed into sepsis, resulting in rapid and overwhelming complications. The family also asked for privacy. That became the first confirmed explanation of what had happened medically. The death certificate now appears to align with that family statement while adding the longer illness window. Us Weekly reported that the certificate listed bacterial pneumonia for days to weeks before death, with sepsis likely present for a much shorter period. People reported the certificate showed the pneumonia progressed into sepsis, then DIC, then hemorrhagic shock. Those details do not prove when Busch or those around him knew how serious the illness had become. They only show the medical sequence as recorded after his death. That distinction is important. There have been public conversations about whether more could have been done, and some outside voices have raised questions. But no official source has confirmed negligence, and no public record reviewed here establishes that anyone knowingly ignored a life-threatening condition. The verified facts show a driver who had been ill, continued competing, then suffered a rapid decline. Busch's career context is also why the update has carried so much weight. He was a two-time Cup Series champion, winning titles in 2015 and 2019. NASCAR reported that he had 63 Cup wins, 102 wins in what is now the O'Reilly Auto Kart Series, and 69 Craftsman Truck Series wins. AP also described him as the driver with more wins across NASCAR's 3 national series than anyone in history. That legacy is part of why every new detail about his final days is being read closely by fans. The reaction from the racing community reflected both shock and respect. NASCAR's official statement called him a future Hall of Famer and described him as a rare talent. Teammates, rivals, and drivers who came up through his programs remembered him not only as Rowdy, the fierce competitor, but also as a mentor and a figure who shaped careers across the sport. The latest update does not erase the uncertainty around how the illness first developed or exactly when it became dangerous. What it does do is narrow the public timeline. May 10 showed a driver asking for medical help after a race. The following weekend showed him still competing and winning. May 20 brought the simulator emergency in Concord. May 21 brought the announcement of his death. May 23 brought the family's medical statement. And now, the death certificate adds the detail that the pneumonia may have been present for days to weeks before the final collapse. For now, the clearest confirmed picture is that Kyle Busch died after a severe illness moved rapidly from pneumonia into sepsis and overwhelming complications. The unanswered part is not whether the illness was serious. It clearly was. The unresolved question is how long the warning signs were present before the final emergency, and whether the public will ever learn more beyond the limited medical timeline now available. What remains certain is that NASCAR lost one of its defining modern drivers, and the new records have shifted the story from a sudden loss with few details to a more complete, but still painful, timeline of illness, competition, emergency, and legacy. Source support for script facts. People reported the death certificate details and the days to weeks illness language. NASCAR published the family's statement and career totals. AP reported the simulator emergency, 911 call, final race timeline, and career context. CDC and Cleveland Clinic support the general medical definitions of sepsis and DIC.